Today is a holiday that celebrates mothers. With all of the changes brought about by COVID-19, this is definitely not your typical Mother's Day. Since COVID-19 came on the scene, the ways we connect with one another, as well as the amount of time we are able to connect with one another, are quite different than just a few months ago. During the past couple of months, many of us have limited our physical contact with our mothers. Those of you who are mothers or grandmothers have quite probably not had physical contact with your children or grandchildren for some time. So while I would typically wish all mothers a happy Mother's Day, I think it is more fitting today to wish for a healthy Mother's Day. And my wish isn't just for mothers. It is also for all of the children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of mothers. Just as this isn't your typical Mother's Day, this won't be your typical Mother's Day service. Today, I will be sharing stories that have been sent to me by members and friends of the fellowship. Stories about the gifts received either from the person's mother or the gifts received from being a mother. I want to say thank you to all of those who shared their stories with me. I hope I do you, your stories, and your mothers justice this morning. Our first story was sent to me by Pam. It begins with a riddle. Where did the general keep his armies? I invite you to think about what the answer to this riddle might be as I share what Pam sent me. My mother became ill when I was 32 years old. We were temporarily living in Geneva, Switzerland, while my husband did a consultancy with the World Health Organization. We were transitioning to the US after having lived and worked in Nepal for 6 years. When my sister called me to say that our mother had severe odd leg pain and was hospitalized, I and our 4-year-old daughter flew back to the States to help out. My mother, as it turned out, had metastatic lung cancer, and she died 26 days later, still in the hospital. Her greatest gift to me was her silly sense of humor. Many times, the nursing staff of the combined oncology AIDS unit came to the doorway to tell us to be quieter, because my mother's 4 brothers and sisters and my 15 cousins were all in the room laughing until we cried. I try to act out her silly, loving kindness as much as I can. So, where did the general keep his armies? Well, of course, he kept them in his sleeveys. Thank you, Pam. We need all the humor we can get these days. Our second story comes from Carolyn. My mom, Dorothy, was an introvert in a family of loud extroverts. She was a quiet rebel at times. And as a child in the mid-1960s, I remember being told to not tell Dad about some of the music we had hidden away and played for us. Bob Dylan, Cream, and lots of Beatles albums. She also had the hilarious under her breath quip that always made me see another side of the story. Her quips were seldom loud enough to be heard amongst the family noise level. But whenever I heard them, I felt she was giving me a gift of her wit and her wisdom. Thank you, Carolyn. Robin sent me this next story about a gift she received from her mother. My father was employed by the US Public Health Service, which meant that our family was transferred every few years to a new community and a new job for him. My mother was tasked with settling us in as a family, and I absorbed her lessons. Join a few groups where you know you will find friendly peers and make yourself useful. In her case, she would join a PEO chapter. PEO is a sorority, a Presbyterian church, and our school's PTA. She would meet the neighbors, and we'd be set. When I moved to Bozeman after 55 years in Alaska, her lessons served me well, as did UUFB, one of the smartest choices I made. Thank you, Robin. And Bruce sent me this story. My mother gave me the gift of knowing that she was there to support me as I grew up. My family moved a few times, and it was up to my mother to help us get comfortable when we did move. In junior high and high school, where it was important to fit in, she made the extra effort to ensure I had clothes that were stylish enough so I felt good about how I looked. And sometimes I'm sure she would have preferred to spend that money somewhere else, but she made me a priority. I focused on sports in high school, wanting to be part of different teams, even though I had a lot more desire than talent. But my mom would attend my games and meets to show me they were important to her also, which helped me realize I was important to her. The extreme of this was watching my cross-country meets, which may be among the most boring athletic events there are. But she came to every one of my meets. Thank you, Bruce. Now we return to stories about mothers and gifts received. Rachel asked me to share the following story of a gift her mother gave her. My mother gave me the gift of a love of reading that I feel fortunate to have been given. We would go to the Boston Public Library on Saturdays to pick out books. Every night after supper, we'd sit in the white rocking chair where she read me stories, and I always looked forward to that time of day as a toddler. I still love to read, and at 88, so does she, and that's been a tremendous gift. Thank you, Rachel. I'm sure many of our UUFB members and friends can relate to the gift that you speak of. Genie sent me this story about her mother. It is told from the first person perspective. Mother's Day was coming up, and as usual, no one in the family knew what to do. Your two sons already had plans of their own. Your second-born son had his own extended family and was planning to be with them. Your firstborn son had planned a trip with his buddies long ago and would be out of town. That left me and your new daughter-in-law, Susan, who would be in Bozeman on Mother's Day. You asked me what I thought we should do, and I, of course, said, "It's up to you, Mom," cleverly abrogating all responsibility for making a decision. I will do whatever you want to do. Well, I want to do the right thing, you said. And I think that the right thing to do would be to invite Susan for Mother's Day brunch. She is alone, and it would be a good opportunity to get to know her better. I want to thank her for hemming my pants for me, too. That sounds perfect, Mom. Let's do it, I replied, relieved that a decision had been made. We did just that, and it was perfect. You took both of us out for lunch, and it was lovely. It should have been the other way around. We should have taken you out, but that was what you wanted. You were 94 years old, and you wanted to do the right thing, and you did. It was your last Mother's Day on this earth. Thank you for a lifetime of showing me how to do the right thing. Always. I miss you so much, Mama. Thank you, Genie. Those of us in this fellowship who knew Ellen are remembering her and missing her as well. As many of you know, Ellen spent most of her life on a farm here in Montana, so it seems fitting that her story should be followed by another story of a mother who lived and raised her children on the farm, so to speak, as well. Sandra shared this story with me. At age 20, my mother married my dad, who was a farmer and serving in World War II. She moved into a large farmhouse, which she kept spotlessly clean. And soon, she was the mother of 3 girls. She made a lot of clothes for me and my sister, often with matching patterns or material. As we grew older, of course, we objected to these look-alike outfits. She also kept a huge garden and froze or canned food from that garden every year. My mom was the Sunday school superintendent, a 4-H leader, president of the local women's club, and an election judge. None of this did I appreciate when I was a kid. Now, I know that women like my mom, women with a high school diploma, were the bedrock of our rural farming community. Thank you, Sandra. I would say that women such as your mother were not only the bedrock, they were much more than that. They were also the fertile soil, both for the farming communities and also for larger communities. Thank you. And our final story was sent to me by Lisa. In this story, Lisa tells about one thing being a mother taught her. I learned not to take myself too seriously, especially at work. I was working at home one day and the nanny wasn't there. I'm not sure why. My daughter was going through potty training. I was on the phone with the governor's office about one of my legal cases, and my daughter ran in and insisted she needed help with the potty now. I explained to the aide with whom I was talking what was going on and that I needed to pause the conversation for just a minute. The aide was a young guy who was clearly flustered by this turn of events, but held on while I went and helped my daughter. I probably couldn't have pulled this off as a young mom, but by this time, I had enough experience in my job to put the governor's office on hold to help my daughter in the bathroom. Lisa, thank you for reminding us what is really important in life. When you gotta go, you gotta go. The governor's office can wait. These are just a few of the stories that could have been told this morning. I hope these stories have spoken to you. I can say that each one spoke to me in their own unique way. Each of our mothers are unique individuals, and each has given us gifts that we carry with us today. One of those gifts was and is the gift of life. It is my hope that each of us use the gift of life our mothers have given us in a manner that would make our mothers proud. Happy and healthy Mother's Day to you all. So may it be.